Hey folks, welcome to the 4099 podcast with your hosts Dima and
I'm Nick.
Nick, roll with the intro, man.
You keep putting these off on me, man. I need time to think about this. But all right, so straight out the gate, we got really lucky with this one. We're bringing in Marty Kotis. Marty Kotis, I think of him and I think, yeah, this is the guy that owns Midtown Greensboro. Like, that's how I think of you. He does everything, anything. We're talking art, we're talking beer, we're talking food, we're talking movies. It's real. Also, billboards. He's really big into billboards. And I can't wait to talk about that. But Marty, please introduce yourself a little bit. Say hey to the folks.
Yeah, hey. So I'm Marty Kotis. I usually tell people I wear four main hats. One is commercial real estate development. I've developed a ton of projects in Midtown, as you mentioned. I got about 35 acres there, Westover Gallery, Red Cinemas, that whole group. And developing a new project downtown called Tracks Bazaar, which will be 11 acres in downtown Greensboro near UNCG. So real estate's one. Second hat I wear is really hospitality business. So I have restaurants, a brewery, movie theater, catering company. And then the third hat that I wear is street art curation and sponsorship. And I've been lucky enough to work with a variety of different great artists from around the world that have graced Greensboro with their artwork. And then fourth hat I wear is Board of Governors with the UNC system, which is the 17 schools in North Carolina with around 250,000 students. So those are kind of my four main buckets where I spend a lot of my time.
So yeah, when you mention Marty, it's better to say like, what doesn't he do? Honestly,
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I wanna first build like a bit of history, some background. Like, what was your childhood like?
My childhood, I was, I grew up in Greensboro. I'm from Greensboro. I moved around a few different houses. I lived in about 5 different houses growing up. I went to Greensboro Day, K through 7, went to ACOC, which is now Swan, from 8th to 9th, and then Grimsley, 10th through 12th. So lived in different parts of the city, kind of moved around. So I've seen a lot of things, made a lot of friends in various parts of the town. But, I started washing dishes when I was like 11 in a seafood restaurant that was related to my father's restaurant business at that time. He had investment with that. And so I've always been kind of a worker. I was a computer science and SAT tutor in high school. And a lot of work, kind of like now, a lot of work and different things that I like to do.
Okay. And all right. So then as like you're saying, you started washing dishes at 11, and then that's when your work career kind of started in your mind.
Yeah.
That's really early.
Well, I think what happens is when you're in the restaurant business, as most of the people out there know, kind of gets in your blood. It's like a big family. You make a lot of friends and get to know people. You're spending a lot of time. It's not like being in an office setting. You can be sitting there working and carrying on conversation the whole time. And I think that's what I really like about the restaurant business and construction is that, everybody can just sit there and kind of chat about whatever. So it's an all-day podcast when you're in the restaurant business or construction.
I feel like that's excellent though. I don't ever want to be at a desk job. I'm into that though. So, all right. Then, so I want to also ask, what was your first project? Like, what did you start off doing? Was like, which hat did you put on first?
So I grew up, in and around the restaurant business. And so again, really young, I did that. And then I did some construction in high school. And then I got my brokerage license took the classes when I was 17, passed when I had to wait until I was 18 to take the test. And then I did leasing in 88. And then I did When I was at Carolina, I was a sauté chef with Squid's Restaurants down there. And so I worked while I was in school. So it's kind of bounced back and forth, but in terms of, big projects, real estate, and then really got back into restaurants in 2010 when I relaunched Daryl's. And that started my whole restaurant division then.
So the restaurant hat kind of went on first.
Yeah. All right. Now I need to go ahead and crack this beer because this is a drinking talk show, and I haven't really started that. Honestly,
crack
after New Year's, I don't want to drink for a while. But man, here we go.
I was feeling that too. I was feeling a little worn out. It's fun to imbibe, but sometimes it can be around New Year's. It can be a little bit much, and then you need a little bit for your liver to recover.
Yeah, enough is enough. I think I'm going to go a couple weeks. This is a good beer though, man. Ooh.
What you drinking?
Well, I don't usually advertise these, but
what style of beer are you drinking?
So this is a Berlin-Weiss style ale.
Yeah.
And it's key lime, coconut, vanilla, marshmallow, graham cracker, and lactose.
Okay. I tend to drink stouts are kind of my go-to, or imperial stouts, which can be dangerous too.
Yeah,
and browns.
That was me
brown at Pig
night.
Pounder is my favorite.
So we haven't tried Pig Pounder yet, and I know it's right down the road. I don't know. So we're over. We pick up most of our beer for the show over at Gate City Growlers.
Yeah.
And actually, no, I take that back. I went and played foosball at Pig Pounder not 8 months ago.
Yeah.
8 or 9 months ago.
A little while ago.
Like right before the shutdown really like clocked in.
Right.
So I take that back. I was drunk, but I've had Pig Pounder.
So speaking of Pig Pounder, I know that you actually own that business, and it would be cool to kind of hear the man talk about what Pig Pounder is, what it stands for, kind of why you even started it in the first place, and if you could get a little bit into that.
Sure. So I mentioned I relaunched Daryl's in 2010. So I acquired the brand in 2009 and then relaunched it, did a big renovation, relaunched it. But Daryl's actually had a beer, and their beer had a pig on the front, and it was 16 ounces. And so it got nicknamed the Pig Pounder because 16 weight ounces would be a pound. 16 fluid ounces is not a pound. But they called it the Pig Pounder. And so that was the name for their beer. And among that, it had kind of a following. And then at that time, when I launched Pig Pounder, there weren't actually a lot of higher end kind of craft breweries out there. Now you've got one on every corner, it seems like. Or you did pre-COVID. Now with COVID, they're shutting back down.
Right.
But when I launched, you didn't have people really doing a higher end quality English style beer. And so I wanted to provide that as an option. And so actually, I traveled to the UK and went to Thomas Fawcett Malts and arranged to get different malts brought in that were really high quality. And we used well water from my farm and just wanted to build the better beer. And we spent 2 years developing recipes before launch with the Sapco system, and then launched it. Wow. And we've done I think pretty well. We won best English brown in the world by Imbibe magazine.
What?
We've won gold and silver medals in World Beer Cup. So it's been a solid run. We've got some good beers out there. So that's kind of the origin of Pig Pounder. That started out in the little building beside it, where we've got the brewery and the small tap room. And then later I added the pavilion. And in the pavilion, I started kind of merging two of the things I do, street art and the beer. And that's where you started seeing more artwork in there. And we became known for the artwork. And now most of our labels are custom street art. And that's kind of our model for it now.
I like that incorporation with that. It's good.
Yeah, the two kind of working simultaneously together, and also kind of just in typical podcast fashion, right? Having a very organic conversation. We spoke. You got into street art, right, a little bit, and I really coming from an art background, graphic design. Um, I have seen some of the most beautiful art, street art in Greensboro in the last, gosh, I mean, I think this renaissance in a way of street art in locally here in Greensboro I noticed it starting to really be out in
Blossom.
the open and
Yeah.
blossom, right? I think about maybe a little bit more, 5 years ago. And I actually got into it and started, researching who the hell's, putting up all this, all this street art, all this beautiful stuff. I mean, I really noticed it over there at Red Cinemas first. I mean, that was like the first kind of like, holy crap, this is amazing. So I did want to hear kind of your story with street art as well, and have you talk about what got you into street art, what got you into art in general, and why you decided to sponsor so many beautiful pieces of art being put up around the city.
Sure. So in 2010, when I relaunched Daryl's, one of the things that I did was bring in a local artist, Allison Cosmos, to be kind of an artist in residence at the Daryl's restaurant for about 4 months. And so all she did for 4 months was work in that one restaurant, adding custom paintings, painting signs. So most of the artwork you see in there is either antique artwork or she hand painted it. And so we've got a lot of hand painted art, hand painted signs in there. And she went on to work on artwork at Marshall Freehouse and over at Pig Pounder and in Burger Warfare. And that was until about 2015, 2016. And I was traveling and seeing more art. And then I started going out and kind of seeking it out. But when I was in Berlin in 2016, I saw some really cool areas along the Berlin Wall and over in the Urban Spree area. And when I saw all that, I was like, man, this is amazing. And then I went to Shoreditch in London and went to Bristol in Western part, and was very impressed with the caliber of the artwork out there. We'd had some artwork here and some different traveling artists, but just not on that same scale as this. So I came back and I made a list, and I said, okay, if I'm going to try and bring in some street artists, let me, figure out if I could wave a magic wand. And I say that to people all the time. And if you could wave a magic wand, what would you want? So if I could wave a magic wand and get whatever street artist I want, who would they be? Made my list. And at the top of my list was a guy, Adnate, Matt Last, goes by Adnate. And he's from Australia. And so reached out to him and arranged to fly him in. And he does Indigenous people. So he did 2 paintings of 2 Lumbee subjects. Well, one Lumbee, one that identifies more as Tuscaroran, which is a variation of Lumbee. And did those 2 paintings, and then it rolled from there. I was kind of lucked into it with being able to convince somebody that big to come in, because they've got, you figure the artist has to believe that you're actually gonna, you're real. You're going to pay them. The lift is going to be there. The paint's going to be there. Everything's going to do that. And fortunately, around that time too, I had Ryan Saunders working with me, and Ryan was very passionate about street art too. I should have mentioned that earlier. So he was passionate about street art. He had done some street art installations on a couple of projects, just kind of arranging for them. Then he did Hop Fest as well over in Trax. And I wanted to take that to the next level with some artists that I picked. And everybody has their own different taste in street art. So he had his group he liked working with. I had some people I wanted to bring in. And I lean more towards figurative. So I was wanting to bring in more figurative artists. So, and then it really rolled out from there. Took it, grew it. We've done now 240 installations. This year we added a free expression wall, an outdoor street art gallery with 60 10 by 10 panels. We finished a loft where I am right now, an artist loft to give artists a place to stay. That was finished in December 2019. And we had enough time for a few artists to come through, and then it cut off. We built a big gallery space, built it out, white boxed it out, and had done 3 events when March hit. So derailed some of our plans with street art, but and we had a video coming out on YouTube. If you Google Kotis street art, you'll see this cool 10-minute video that walks you through what we're trying to do. And we were going to launch that in March as well. So it's, 2020 has been a real pain in the ass, but we think that 2021 artists will again be able to travel, and we'll have more people coming through.
We actually, we watched a plethora of YouTube content,
Doing a little bit of research
around you, and I loved that video. We may actually link that in the description just so that people have something to visit, to, kind of explore and share that brand a little bit.
That's my favorite, because you get to see, I was able to spot along the way that there was going to be, we were doing something really neat. And so I pulled in a guy, Paul Bion, who's a fantastic videographer around here. And we started documenting and filming every artist that was coming through. And so we've got tons of footage we shot of all the artists and made those into little mini videos, but then wrapped it all up in this one big one. And we can't even fit everybody in. It'd be a 2-hour movie for us to get every artist in there.
But that's awesome though, to have it like on that scale to where like you can't really package it into one scene. I love that. And then you also did a really cool thing, and you tagged, you watermarked everyone's like tags in it.
Mm-hmm.
So like we actually explored them a little bit too, and saw a little bit more about their backgrounds. Like the guy from Australia, Adney.
Yeah, Adney.
Yeah, like that guy does some wild stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
he's got a hotel that he did a whole hotel.
Wow.
And painted not only the outside of the hotel, but different themes and suites within there. So I really want to go see it.
Where is this? Is that in Australia?
That's in Australia as well. He's in Melbourne. So.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I do think we need to get down there. So another thing that we do is we have a segment where we interview people from other countries and compare and contrast like their site of like, or opinion on their country versus our country. And I think right now we've got 5 countries we've done.
Yeah, so far we've had 5 countries. I mean, we have so many more.
And I really want to get Australia in on that one, because that's a wild place.
Yeah, we need to get Australia for sure. But no, yeah, that's awesome. That's really, really cool to hear. Just someone as passionate as yourself about, street art and kind of funding and helping like this, like we said before, this kind of movement flourish in the city. And what it does is it not only allows things to flourish here, but it also gives, I feel like it gives a huge kind of motivation to people around that see the street art, people coming into Greensboro and giving them motivation to kind of do art themselves, go out there and paint or, graffiti and really express themselves in their own way creatively.
And the local street art scene we have now is incredible. Brian Lewis, we talked about this a little bit earlier before the show started, but he is just, to see how far he's come and his skill set, I just keep thinking, he's like at the top of his game, and then he gets to a new level, and it's just so impressive to watch that. And one of the things I try and do is we're trying to just support people like that are, what I really like about street artists is they are giving their art to the community. You can't sell that painting that's on the wall. And so, when they put that up there, that's so that anyone can enjoy it. It's massive. Anyone can enjoy the art. They can come up whenever they want, see it. It's an incredible scale. There's no gallery admission. There's no ticket. They're not really doing it for the appreciation of that piece, because it's going to fade. It's outside in the elements. It's going to fade. it's designed to be ephemeral and enjoyed in that moment, which I really like that concept too. But you've got, Brian here, you've got Jenna Rice also. She's actually working on a piece today in my office. Ramon Bardwash, who is so, he's only been painting with an aerosol can for a little over a year. He's already got 40 pieces up around. I mean, he's so prolific and incredible. And many other artists in town too, but those three are kind of my go-to. And they're the three that have painted in my office, along with Overt, who does a lot of really cool traditional graph as well. Y'all have to come over when we get through COVID and check out the new space.
Please.
Yeah, no, that would be,
love to do that.
That would be really, really cool. Something that you said that was very important, I feel like, to kind of go back to for a little second here is, by making art and putting it out to the public, it circumnavigates these loopholes that are in place for things such as paintings that you have to pay, a ticket to get into, and it's on the wall and you can't touch it, and you can't, it's not interacting with the elements, right? And so, that again, that this just adds to the fact that, like, what you're doing and what you're helping support is really a good cause. It's really a good cause. Again, it's taking that kind of, I don't know what it would be called, not aristocratic, but it's not political, but these
philosophical.
I think it's like barriers out there sometimes,
right,
or lack of access,
right,
to certain things. You've got to have the time to go do it. You got to have the money to go do it. And this way it's more open and accessible to everyone to enjoy. And I think that's why I like a lot of the street art types. I tend, restaurants, construction, street art all have the same thing in common, which there's a lot of good people in those industries. And so real people, and I'm not really kind of a country clubby sort of guy. I don't want that. There's a barrier for people to go in. I really don't want to be in there. I want to be, outside with the guys, outside the kitchen door or something instead. So that's who I identify more with.
Right on.
The blue collar.
Yeah, the blue collar.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny, actually. I had a chief that was like that. So I'm a veteran from, I was in the Navy for 5 years, and my chief, so the boat I worked on was like divided. You had officers and chiefs that were all khakis, and then you had everyone under them, all the enlisted guys that were blue collar, and we just went to war. It was sloppy. We actually had like baseball games, and like the chiefs and the officers would always cheat. Stupid.
Oh, thank you for your service.
It was my pleasure. I worked on submarines, and I love that mess. That was so much fun. But yeah, so we've kind of like touched on the art thing, and that's really Dima's like bread and butter. I'm more of a business guy, and I'm wondering, because there are so many things that came up when we were like doing our Google searches and our YouTube searches, and it seems like in the city and I guess in the state, really, you've had a lot of issues with the governance, and I'm just wondering, like, how have things gone for you in the past, and like, is there anything you're working with right now that's kind of an issue? I know there was that one with going back to Pig Pounder, where there's some old statute that said you're not allowed to sell your beer in your establishment if you're a brewer. Yeah. Like, what is going on?
That's why I'm a libertarian, because unfortunately, I think a lot of times rules and governing laws are set up, frankly, to benefit a certain business or a certain class of businesses. We don't need alcohol 3-tier systems here. With the marijuana system, it's a 1-tier system. Nowhere else in the world do we have a 3-tier system. But we have this nanny state 3-tier system because the distributors have so much power, and they give so much money to government officials at the federal and various other levels to keep this 3-tier system in place. And they say they're doing it for public safety, but it's not. It's for enrichment of, their own businesses.
Right. It's
You used to have the
capital.
beer barons, now you have the distributor barons. And so that was one of the, ones we bumped up against there. And you've got fire sprinkler companies that are pushing for certain fire laws. It seems like most of the laws out there where I'm frustrated are because they're designed to enrich someone else, and they have a publicly stated good, but it's not usually about that. It's usually about keeping this income stream and this business out there. So that's what I hate about. I would start zero government, and then you build up from what do you have to have? Well, you got to have a military force, because otherwise you're going to be just taken over by every other country out there. And then you keep adding the things that you have to have, but we've got so many cottage industry laws out there and taxes supporting them that, and you look at this most recent one with the PPP funding and EIDL and some of the companies that took massive amounts of money from that. And it feels like it's always about money at the end of the day. And somebody wants it, and they want somebody else to give it to them. And that's what I don't like about governance. I also don't like people just stopping me from getting something done, because I want to get out there and get it done, and I don't want to have all this red tape to go through to get it done. So that's another part of the frustration.
I feel like it kills your momentum and your drive, and then big picture, it like degrades like free markets.
Yeah. Well, it's not a free market anymore. And that's the whole thing. Someone doesn't want a free market. They want a government handout through forcing people to have to comply with a certain standard or use a certain third party to do something. And then that becomes, again, they're kind of feeding that. And that's what I don't like about governance in general.
All good points.
I'm not surprised that you declared yourself libertarian. We were actually, leading up to the election, he and I had gone back and forth on the notion, and like that whole like Joe Jorgensen thing, she had a hell of a campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Right now, I think there's just not a viable option to win. We've got a 2-party system that, again, the 2 parties benefit from that. They don't want a third party in there. There's no desire for that. And frankly, the problem is, if you split one party, then that party just loses. And so there really has to be this middle ground of libertarians that kind of come together that create more of a coalition. So I'm still a registered Republican, but I describe myself as a libertarian leaning or libertarian minded, because it's not viable yet for me to be a full-on libertarian.
Yeah. And that would have to, you'd have to have a huge cultural shift in the States for that to really happen. And I don't know, I feel like
in the last 10 years, you've seen this move back towards people wanting to give all their control up. And that's what I don't understand either. I feel like if you want to give control up, you have to imagine giving that control to your worst enemy, and then they've got control of you. And I don't want that. I'd rather keep control myself than give somebody else control over me.
Common sense, guys, come on.
But it doesn't seem like it. It seems like people want government to tell others what to do all the time, so long as it's what they want government to tell them to do.
It's wild. I don't get it. It also makes me really uncomfortable. Ugh. Ugh. I don't know. Yeah, it gives me like a body irk. It's like, really? I say common sense. Sometimes common sense isn't so common.
People, so many different ideologies, so many different just ideas about how things should be run. But I think that this is important to kind of touch on, and because it gets into these kind of this red tape that you were talking about. A lot of the time when we do have these organic ideas and we do want to kind of keep momentum and get things done, we can't, we can't do it. There's too many barriers kind of preventing us from succeeding. It almost seems like, right? And so it's nice to kind of use your platform, because this is something that we wanted to get into. It's because we either watched something or read something about the billboards, and that's something that you wanted to get into.
Oh yeah, so the billboards have been hot.
Yeah.
Most recently with the 9 o'clock curfew, I think
Mm-hmm.
you got pinged for what was one of them was
we did a gremlin one.
You did the gremlin.
So we had Mogwai, and we were talking about how it's bad. It's okay to drink alcohol up till this time, but then don't drink it after that unless you're at home. And then if you're home, that's okay. Or if you go to the ABC store, it's okay. But, God forbid, don't go to a bar or a restaurant and have a drink after 9 p.m. You'll catch COVID immediately. You can take your mask off all the time when you're sitting there. There's a lot of, fun memes out there that make fun of this. But, you're sitting there with your mask off, and that's okay. COVID isn't going to get you then. But, some other time it will. It's just kind of silly. There's not a lot of science behind it. It's this weird, and that was the other big one that I ran was, where's the science? Because to say that, okay, it's dangerous. And what was awful about it, Cooper, God bless him, he puts this ruling out that says you can go to a fitness center, but if you're exercising vigorously, then you can take your mask off. I mean, how the hell does that make any sense? Because finally, I think that the scientist in the room caught up to that and said, that doesn't make a lot of sense. If you're working out and you're breathing really hard, that's when you especially need a mask.
Yeah, because you're expelling more air from your lungs. It's going to be, if you have COVID, it's contaminated.
Versus sitting quietly in a movie theater, 6 feet apart from others with all the different things we put in place. And it's just amazing to me how some people just buy into it, because one guy is our governor and he aligns with them with the same party, they will suddenly take everything he says as gospel and won't question anything. And frankly, that's the same problem I had with blind followers of Trump too. I don't blind follow anybody. I'm going to question them if they do something. That's why I would not be able to serve in the military because I could not blind follow. When they tell me to go, and I told my son this too. I said, if your commanding officer told you to go up the hill, you would say, you couldn't stop and say, well, I've thought of a better way. Why don't we do this? That ain't going to work in a combat situation. So
yeah, no, I came out of the military a little more apolitical than I went in. I learned a lot. And I think to your point, critical thinking is key. Like you really need to pull as much information as you can from every source you have, and compare these and see where the path looks like it's actually going, because one story is not going to be the same, to the next. It's all in critical thinking. Like literally just break it down. Like, does that make sense? Does it really make sense?
Yeah.
So
so the billboards have been a fun way to comment on all of that with the, and then people have really enjoyed the, your governor is in control, listen and comply.
Yeah, that was
probably
the one
got the most conversation.
Yeah, that was
started out there, and it's hilarious to see the conversations because some people take it literally and think that I'm posting something that is
already into the
supporting
propaganda.
The governor, and then other people take the other. And really, what I was trying to do is encourage people to do like we're doing now and have a conversation and talk about freedoms and talk about rights and talk about implications of some decisions.
Amen. Yeah, really, I couldn't have said it better. Honestly, I can't talk, but man, I love that sign though, and I guess I can see because the way it's scripted and it looks kind of like Illuminati. It's like, yes.
Yeah. So I used on that project. I wanted to comment on that, and so I brought in an artist, Doug Kaysen, who has done a variety of different artwork with me on some projects, and we've used other ones too. Another guy, Stefan Smith, created some artwork. and then some of my team have created artwork for it. So we've played around with different artwork out there, and you can see the different styles. But we wanted to communicate kind of like this Russian propaganda approach, and a nod to the Illuminati with the eye, and all kinds of interesting elements there that people would see it and it would catch their eye, and make them think about the topic.
You got to abide, or you're going to wind up in the gulag. But yeah, and then before that, I think the billboards hit up. They peaked in the news for the Justice for Joey stuff, and and I feel like you got in a little bit of trouble for that, like from the city, right?
Yeah, it was funny. So Justice for Joey was Brian Lewis had done a tribute mural for a guy that died, was hit by a drunk driver, actually, who had been arrested several times, and senselessly died. He was a colleague or friend of Brian's. He knew him, and he wanted to do a piece, so he did the tribute piece that more of a memorial figurative piece. But then he also wanted to do something raw that just screamed out his emotions on it, which was, hey man, we need some justice for this guy. This is bullshit. And so he wanted to do just a hashtag Justice for Joey. And so he did that on a wall downtown that I had and wrote it on there. And then I got a citation from the city for graffiti. And I said, it's not graffiti. Graffiti, by its very definition, is frankly unwanted artwork being written on there. So like a gang symbol or something where somebody's writing something on, but you didn't allow them to do it. So frankly, any almost unpermitted artwork would be graffiti. But if you allow it, it's not. If you encourage it or allow it, it's not graffiti.
Right. You
sanction. It's another weird kind of defining term there.
Right.
But they did that. I got into an argument with them about it, and then I told Brian, I said, if they buff over it, we'll just write it back on. And then I had an idea, and I said, well, they're not going to be able to buff over my billboard. So I had them write the script in the same style, and we ran it on the billboard, which actually got a lot more attention for the topic. So frankly, them talking about that led to articles about it, and then the billboard, which led to more coverage of the hashtag Justice for Joey. So it led to more coverage of what Brian wanted to communicate out there. So it's kind of that's my, kind of.
It's a good thing they pushed you over the edge there. You're like, all right, well, I got some billboards then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting. I've tried to stay away from being too critical on local issues, but I don't mind being having an opinion and voicing it. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, well, really, in business, you can't have opinions like that. You have to go along, and you've got to make sure you're very plain and you don't upset anybody. And I said, I'm not going to live my life where I'm not willing to be who I am and say what I think. And if I'm in an industry where ever I can't do that, then I'll probably exit that industry, because I'm not going to be cowed to everybody else's public opinion. I don't bow to peer pressure really much at all.
You don't subscribe to that magazine.
I'm not going to start now. Absolutely. And frankly, the older I get, I'm 51, about to be 52, I'm less and less tolerant of other people trying to force me to do or say or act a certain way. And just, here's who I am, and here's what I think.
Marty ain't no sheep.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, no sheep. That's right.
Now, in digging up and reading, and everything I know about your history screams success. I want to ask, conversely to that, what would you say has been your career's biggest failure? And
yeah, sure.
So how did you pivot on that?
Yes, I think The biggest failure I had was probably Marshall Freehouse. It was an English pub that I did, and beautiful pub. You know, and I researched that. I went over to the UK, spent time, went into a lot of Victorian pubs, and really built out a space that looked like a Victorian pub with, you know, a curved belly bar, and we had a molecular mixology lab, had a huge whiskey selection. We had you know, all the theme, the pub signs, everything else going, authentic food. But what I forgot about is, one, we're in Greensboro, right? So we're not in London. So it's a very different market. So you can't compare a market with over 10 million people in it to a market with, you know, 400,000 and expect to have the same kind of acceptance. Two, most Americans don't think, what do you want to go eat, honey? Oh, I'm really craving some English food tonight. So it's not, they're not known for being kind of world class in food, even though I think we had world class food there. The other mistake I made was I designed it as a Victorian pub. So in the UK, when you would go into a pub like that, that's just normal. That could be your neighborhood pub that's been there for, you know, 300 years, and it looks like that. But here, that Victorian pub was perceived as very high end. And so people didn't think of, let me go grab a pint. It'd be like saying, hey, I'm going to go grab a beer at Ruth's Chris or Fleming's. There's this feel like it was too nice. And that was kind of the mistake I made on that with that project. And, but it's a hard switch for me to turn off because I want to create something perfect and take it to the next level. And we were doing things like, you know, molecular mixology, which you only, at that time, there were probably 6 solid concepts around the world doing that well, and we were one of them. Or we were doing, you know, temping down your whiskey using liquid nitrogen and bringing in water to create the, you know, so the problem with whiskey, if you drink whiskey, is you get a glass of whiskey and let's say you put a splash of water in it. Well, that's not very scientific. Or you put some ice in there. What does that mean? That's not scientific either. So instead we said, well, you got the whiskey and then you have a certain dilution rate you want. What dilution rate would you like? Do you want 5%, 7%, 10%, 20% water in there? And then what temperature do you want that whiskey? Because that's the point of the ice. And we'd use liquid nitrogen to temp that down. And we could give you your whiskey at 55 degrees, 40 degrees, whatever you want.
Jeez.
We could even turn it into a powder theoretically, but that's not fun to drink. And so that was kind of doing something that I'd never seen in the world. So I think one of my key drivers is I love to do things at a level that's world class. So if we're going to have a brewery, I want to have the best beer. If we're going to do a whiskey bar, I want to have the best whiskey program in the world. And that sometimes is a little overreach for a market our size. If I was in New York or Tokyo trying to do it, it would translate a little bit better.
Now, I did see a little bit of your molecular mixology setup, and it looked like a chemistry lab, like straight up. Man, I feel like that's basically what it is. But like, what's the thought behind that? I don't understand. Like, because you said there's only like at the time there were only like 6 or 7 in the world. Like, what's the advantage of that? Like, I'm not trying to say that it's a bad thing. I just don't understand it.
There are really 4 main buckets. And I saw this at the first place I went to that had this was Whistling Shop in London. And I went down, they were there. I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And so I asked them, the bartender there, do you mind if I film some of this? And I did. And then later at a National Restaurant Association trade show, there was somebody doing that, but for food. And selling a variety of equipment. And I bought like their whole line when I was there. But so the first easiest one is something like a smoking gun. So that is, you're putting wood chips into this thing, it's blowing air through and it creates smoke that you can put into a drink. And you've seen that before now, a lot of people are doing it where you open it up and there's a smoked old fashioned. Yeah. So that's one thing you can do. That's kind of the simplest part of it. And what that's introducing is just You've got your drink. Now you've got an aromatic sense in there that's going with it. And that's kind of how that works. Then you've got a notch. The other thing that can happen is an ice program. So ice program is another big thing. People will do square ice, cubed ice, circular ice, different type of ice. So that, yeah, so that when you're putting the ice in there, you've got a great ice program. And we did that. Then you've got kind of the temperature beyond ice, and that's where we were using liquid nitrogen. Then there's two other specialized pieces of equipment. One is a machine that basically pushes sound waves through a solution, take like oil and vinegar, and it takes two liquids and combines them with sound waves. So think of like, instead of running it through a blender, it's using sound waves to combine them. You can do that with wood in there, kind of a barrel aged thing. You can do that with different things you're trying to flavor a drink with. And so we were using that too. It's called a sonic something, but it homogenizes two liquids without emulsification agent. And then the other part of that was we were doing a rotary evaporator. So basically a still where you could take something and distill out a clear liquid out of it, like you pour Coca-Cola in there, and distill out a clear liquid over that you could then use to flavor a drink without having all the main part of the Coca-Cola. You could do it with orange juice too.
Wild.
So those were the things we were doing in there. And, you know, they're becoming more popular around the world now, but we were bleeding edge on that. And I think we did a really good program, but that's very early on, you know, just not a lot of people doing it. And it takes a while to get your drink that way too. So it's not, you got to be in an environment where you can sell that for a fair amount of money.
Now, talking about all this, like essentially cutting edge kind of new age technology,
breaking new ground, kind of
breaking new grounds, where do you think, because it seems like you're doing this not only within that facet, but within everything you do. You try to find that new, just this new wave in everything you do. Where do you get a lot of these inspirations from? And has this always been something that you've been thinking about in the back of your mind? Like, I want to definitely take this thing that I enjoy and I want to add something new to it. I want to kind of bring it out of the Middle Ages, you know?
I think that's something I do. So, you know, I travel a fair amount, and so I see a lot of things. So let's say I'm researching a new brewery. I'll go and I'll visit various breweries out there. I'll see what they're doing. What are they doing really well? Then I'll go and say, okay, well, if I'm trying to find the best ingredients for this, where will I go? Or concept for this, what will I do? It's architecture. You know, I'm constantly traveling around taking photos and saying, oh my gosh, that's an unbelievable brick detail from a building that was built 200 years ago in London. I'm going to take that and include it. Or it may be a new project that was built, you know, in Raleigh that has a installation or a feature that's really cool. And so I'll take those, and I don't go around just kind of like copycat, but I'll take those and say, that's a cool concept. This other thing's a cool concept. This is a cool concept. But what if I elevate it and I take it to this level, or I do this, or I make these changes, or you know, this inspires a new idea. And then that's what I try and do. So sometimes it is, you know, like in London, seeing this homemade lemonade, which we do at Daryl's. So we make our own lemonade. But it's always wanting to be kind of the best, and keep getting better. And I think that's kind of my mindset, whether it's street art or architecture or restaurants or brewery or the movie theater or anything else. How can we be the best at what we're doing?
So, you know, kind of putting it into a narrative of a young entrepreneur or someone that really wants to start their own business or anything, you'd say something that you're really doing, and something that I noticed just speaking to you, is you are constantly absorbing everything and kind of documenting it And if something looks interesting, you're going to take a picture. If something looks interesting, you're going to talk to someone about how this works, you know? And would you say that's something that you would, one of the main things that you would kind of tell a young entrepreneur coming up and trying to start their own business or whatever they do, is just to always be absorbing and documenting? Or?
Yeah, I think explore, take notes, you know, for visual things. That's what you're doing with a camera. I use another system, Evernote, where I'll take written notes when I'm traveling around. So I go and I try and seek out kind of the coolest things, the best things, and then learn from that. And then let's say there's a technique and there's something I want to learn more about, like mixology. You know, I didn't know everything I know about molecular mixology right off the bat, so I had to study it. And so I think always looking to learn more and improve your skill set. Like 3 years ago, I went through general contractor licensing, and I went through one, then I went through another, then another, until I got unclassified, unlimited licenses. You know, if I'm going through beer, I'm going through Cicerone program. You know, so each time I try and improve my skill set, and I've been through that's why I'm on the board of governors, is I believe in education. I believe in learning, and I believe in lifelong learning. And I do that for myself. You know, sometimes it's a new piece of tech or a new social media platform like Clubhouse, and trying to understand how that works and how to, you know, what is it? How does it work? So I like figuring things out. Or I was working on recently I've been trying to do more mechanical things. I was working on a scissor lift, and I'm replacing parts, and I'm working on the equipment. And I think sometimes there's this fear that people have of, I can't do it. And sure you can, especially now with YouTube. Gosh, you can find a video for like me tearing apart my espresso machine to fix it, or working on a lift or whatever else. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. You know, I'm like halfway through it going, I may have just really screwed up here. I may not be able to get this coffee machine back together. Thankfully, I have another one just like it, so I was able to take that one apart to figure out how to get the first one back together. Or like the lift, I was like, I'm probably going to spend more money than it would cost to call a lift guy to fix this thing. But I got it working and got everything right on it. So, you know, and you fail along the way on some of those things. You can't always do everything. You have other people help you. But I'm a big believer in constant learning.
Right on. Yeah, that's something I felt was needed to mention.
Speaking of mechanic stuff and equipment, I'm wondering, do you still have that old military truck that is like a deuce and a half, whatever it is?
Yeah.
That thing is.
Yeah, I got a deuce and a half. 68 Kaiser deuce and a half. Yeah.
Oh.
I've got another one that I've got to work on sometime this year. That's a tractor. So it's the Kaiser 68, no roof to it. So it's like a big old convertible tractor trailer tractor.
Yes.
That we got to get running too.
I love it.
It's pretty cool.
Oh, what are you doing with that bad boy? Is it just a toy?
Well, the deuce and a half I use out on my, so we had it over at Burger Warfare for a while, and we were using it for different things there. But I bought that really just to use on my farm. So I would drive it back all around on my property. And if we had people over, I could carry, 20 people around in this thing, on inclines like this, where it's just going up and everybody's like hanging on, about to fall out of the truck. It was, I got it on this website, Gov Liquidation,
okay.
$1,600.
What?
So like nothing. And it, I know, isn't that crazy? And got repairs into it. So I'm probably like 2,600 in it now.
I'm about to hop on the internet.
Again, govliquidation.com. Or it's called Gov Deals. It was called Gov Liquidation at the time. But I bought all kinds of stuff on there. I'm probably on some kind of watch list now, because we bought all these 50 cal shells for the Burger Warfare bar.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sure they look through my profile. He's buying these vehicles, these 50 cal shells, everything else. I'm like, damn, okay, that's probably.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and flag this guy.
Oh man.
Yeah, all right.
Oh man, I am so jealous. That is awesome. That is sick.
Well, Nick is in the market for a new car, so maybe you should get up on there.
I am, Oh, so everyone over here, I'm a huge off-road guy. I'm kind of playing with the idea of jumping on the new Bronco. I'm not really sure if it's going to be the right fit. I want to look at it first and test drive and just kind of feel it out. But I don't know if I can get
I want the Cybertruck.
Really?
Oh man, that thing looks crazy.
The Tesla Cybertruck is the one I'm watching. Now the Hummer I like too, but God, that thing's pricey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's got some cool creature comforts to it with that 45-degree kind of crab crawl. That's really cool, but still, you know, it's like $100K instead of the Cybertruck being more like 50.
Yeah, which the Hummer was kind of a surprise. I didn't think that was going to be a real thing, but alas, we have it. I didn't see GM going in that direction at all, but really it makes sense. Everyone's kind of working towards that anyway, so that was me just being naive. I was like, no way. But all right, so you use your
last December I got a electric Harley, and that's been amazing to it's been my first street bike, because I've had like a Husqvarna 2-stroke 250 and I've got ATVs, but my first street bike, and I got it because it was the electric one, and I thought that's kind of cool. Now I understand why people have multiple bikes, because this thing will go like 100 miles and you got to recharge it. So then you're like, oh, well, what I really need is a touring bike. And what I really need is this other bike too. But this one's been fun for scooting around town. And it's 0 to 60 in 3, which is just crazy fast.
Yeah. Oh, that gives you the pucker effect real quick. Oh,
turbo bike.
Yeah.
That's all. I forgot about the Harley. I forgot they did that. But oh man, that is awesome. I could do a whole bit just on toys. Yeah. Man. All right. Now, so we're kind of getting into the realm of hobbies. So yeah, walk us through, what are your hobbies?
So they tend to change every few years, different things I like to do. You know, right now I'd say street art kind of falls in a hobby. I picked up a can a couple times to paint, but I'm not really, more just for understanding than for a desire to create things. My canvases tend to be more like a whole area, like tracks or Midtown. But things I like to do, I still like to hike. I used to do a lot of triathlons and adventure races. So I've done Escape from Alcatraz 6 times, and I've done Spates Coast to Coast, and I made it to the World Championships in 2007 for the Ironman 70.3 series. Jesus. So I used to do a lot more of that. I was a little bit skinnier out there when I'd race, because it's all about power to weight. So I had to lean down for that to race back then.
Yeah, that's not
but
easy.
Those were some of my hobbies back then. So a lot of swim, bike, run, and then kayak. I still kayak a fair amount, or I still like to kayak. I still hike a fair amount. I bike some out there with just more, not really going out road biking anymore, just kind of more trail biking, and motorcycle, of course, and of course food and drink and travel.
Yeah, Dima's
recently
picked up.
What's your hobbies?
He's picked up bartending this past week. He started making all kinds of crazy like liquor drinks, and I think that's part of the reason.
Well,
I'm dying.
Yeah, so I killed him yesterday. I cooked him up a Vesper. Are you familiar with that cocktail? The James Bond.
Have you seen that cocktail book? Yeah, one of my colleagues gave me the Aviator cocktail book.
Yeah,
it's really neat. It's got the Vesper in there too.
Yeah.
A powerhouse, like 3 of those.
Yeah, that's from one of the recent. That's from the recent James Bond film. Yeah.
Yep.
Or relatively recent.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it's from. Yeah, so it's a powerhouse. You know, it's definitely a powerhouse. Mixology is really cool. A huge history. I mean, with that, a lot of the time, a lot of these hobbies that I pick up, they go back a very long time. Like I have a huge hobby with watches. You know, I'm really into horology and just the study of time. I really like have we actually did a podcast at Windsor's. Are you familiar with Windsor Jewelers in Winston-Salem?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went over there and we talked to one of the guys over there, and we just got into nerd mode and talked about a lot about, you know, all the different, you know, new up and coming brands, older brands, the history of it all. And so, yeah, I mean, oh man, I have a huge amount of hobbies. Nick, you have a lot of hobbies too, though, you know?
Yeah, so while we were out there at Windsor, I'm not much of a watch guy. I definitely learned a lot during our time there, but I shifted the conversation to cars a little bit, and that's where I really like to hold it down, cars, off-road vehicles. And then recently we've both kind of gotten into guns.
Yeah.
I'm more of a shotgun fan. He's doing the pistol thing.
Yep.
And then I've got a couple family members with rifles and stuff, so we're kind of playing with those a little bit.
So do you shoot like a Benelli, or what do you shoot for your shotgun?
So we've got one Benelli, we've got a Mossberg, just like
Yeah, I go to. Yeah.
And then
You got I'm working with the car CW9 for the pistol.
kind of a nice entry level.
Yeah.
My first pistol was a Beretta 92, and that's what I've always shot, and that was a very comfortable gun for me, and I always enjoyed shooting it. But then I got into SIG, and now I'm on the 226, and I can't. It's hard for me to go back to the Beretta from that.
Yeah,
but I do. I like both. My son likes shooting the Beretta now, so he enjoys that. But I like a big, chunky pistol if I'm going to shoot something. I can't shoot something tiny.
Yeah, that car is
right to me.
The car is a tiny piece.
Yeah, it is.
Like I've got these big sausage mitts, and I'm holding this tiny little pistol like this. I'm like, it's sloppy. But yeah, so I like to hang out with my big guns. Actually, when I was in the Navy, I manned the M60, so this big chain-fed machine gun, and we go out for we have to do our qualifications. It's like once or twice a year. You're just like cha 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 cha, and oh man, nothing better. Like you can't.
I shot a saw out in Vegas at a gun range out there.
No,
you gotta wear goggles because you're going through so much lead.
Yes,
that the gunpowder is kind of getting to you and cause your eyes to water.
It's awesome. So we've been kind of playing around with explosives too. We've got some like tannerite and stuff. You kind of like make into weird.
Oh yeah, the tannerite's fun.
Oh man, you make all kinds of weird like targets to shoot, and then just poof.
Take a nearly empty spray can and put that with it, and you'll get some good boom with that.
Oh,
thank you.
That's a great idea.
Thank you. Hell yeah.
So much creativity going on right now. I love this.
Other than that, I'm really big into, I guess, manual labor. I've been doing a lot of remodeling and stuff. I've got a couple of houses I've been working on in New Hampshire. And then I just love to drive. I drove cross country this past year while I was taking summer classes because like I had nothing else to do. So it's just me and a truck driving cross country.
This is the only human being that I know that can literally sit behind the wheel. I mean, how long does it take to get from here to New Hampshire, Nick?
Generally 12 to 15 hours.
Yeah, so
depending on your route.
Sits through the whole thing. No problem.
Yeah, my cutoff's about 6 hours. So
Yeah.
6 to maybe 8 hours max if I'm really pushing it. But if I'll go to DC or Atlanta, I'll drive. If I go up to like Columbus, I'll drive. Tennessee, I'll drive. But beyond that, I'll fly somewhere. But I like driving. I like having, because by the time you hop in your car, you carry whatever you want. You've got a car. Then when you get there, you drive along the way. You stop wherever you want, and can kind of break it up however you want, versus a plane. You got to go to the airport an hour before, your flight may be delayed.
Yeah.
You're, flying out of Greensboro, you're generally connecting through somewhere else to get to a destination. And so whenever I can drive, I prefer to drive too, but 14 hours, I'm not going to do that in a day.
All right. Well, if you ever need a chauffeur, let me know.
Yeah.
I got you. But yeah, no, I think my longest direct drive ever was from New Hampshire to Key West. That's like 24 hours straight.
Yeah.
I got out of the car, like I have like this like body numb feeling. I can't think straight. Everything's upside down. I have no balance. And then I think I slept for like a solid 18 hours after that. I don't recommend the 24-hour straight drive.
I think I'd stop. They have these things called hotels.
Yeah, no, they
stop along the way.
There've been studies on like driving tired versus driving drunk, and it's like
probably similar.
It's almost more dangerous to be driving tired than drunk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, lessons learned. That was a younger me.
Well, listen. So we've covered a lot of things throughout this episode, and kind of in the back end of the episode, we definitely wanted to ask you. In the end, we'll obviously give you a chance to plug yourself and kind of give the people listening a way to follow you or whatever they want to do. But we definitely wanted to ask you before we cut this one off is what projects you have that you're sitting on right now that you're planning on working on in this new year here.
So Trax is a big one downtown, and that's 11 acres in downtown Greensboro on the southwest side of downtown between downtown and UNCG. And that's got Dram and Draft Whiskey Bar in there now. I'm working to do micro shops in there, a salon, a big outdoor music venue, food truck park, farmer's market. And then in one of the other buildings, a pop-up skateboard park. I bought a skateboard park in 2019. That's big. It's a lot of equipment, so we already have it all. Food hall, event space, art gallery, co-working. So that's a big project down there to work on. And then I'm looking to add more multifamily on my existing properties where I own property already. Then looking to add a grocery store over in the Westover Gallery project. And then yesterday, I just closed on a property on Battleground to the north that's 10 acres with a friend of mine. We went in partnership on that. And so that's another project that will be up there that I'll work on too. And then on the restaurant side, I'm hoping to get this Che Chancho's Mexican restaurant finished over on Cone Boulevard. And that's the bulk of it. I got a few more things out there, but that's the bulk of it.
Got a lot of irons in the fire, man.
Yeah.
That's good.
Definitely keep you busy.
Well, assuming we get through this damn COVID thing, then I can finish them. But it's hard to get them going right now with this dragging out there.
Yeah, dragging them feet.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I mean, everything that you've done, everything that's happened with Greensboro, I would say in the last 10 or so years, would you still call it Greensboroing?
Well, that's what I keep trying to break is that name, because I feel like I used to call it that when I was younger, and a lot of people did. And I think part of the reason is sometimes a lot of the ideas are coming from the same well. It's the same group of people kind of creating the same sorts of things. And a lot of times it's almost like trying to catch up with other cities instead of lead. And so what I've tried to do is find ways to really lead. So instead of trying to be like Charlotte or be like Raleigh or be like Durham, I want to be like Tokyo or New York or LA, or be like something that they would want to be, and create something really unique in that way. And street art's been a big one that I've enjoyed for that. But I think the whole Trax project will be another thing that I want someone from DC or LA or Tokyo when they're here to say, I wish we had this back home instead of this. Well, we've got something a lot nicer in Charlotte or Raleigh. This is just kind of a Greensboro version of it. I want to give us more points of pride, and that, because if we're always trying to play catch up, then people always want to move somewhere else because that's where the better version is. How do we be the best at what we can be? And I think part of that is creating a lot more startups. So my big focus in 2021 is helping people that want to start a business. And there are a lot of people that have realized now that getting that paycheck isn't something they can always count on. So maybe they want to have more control and launch their own business. And I've always done that, working with people to start their businesses more than the national chains. But I want to do even more of that with the micro shops and the food hall and the food trucks and the co-working spaces to really give people a chance at an affordable rate. So I think Greensboro can be an affordable place to start your business, or a place where you can do something cool if we could just get some of this bureaucracy out of the way, some of this red tape. We need to be an easier place to launch your business. And right now we're not. So hopefully we get city council really focused on this idea of cutting out the red tape, making it easier for people to launch a business, and actually talking about economic development more too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'll, without it, you can't really boost the city's numbers.
Nope.
Yeah.
You're stuck in third place, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
not cool.
Yeah. Well, or we drop to fourth or fifth.
Yeah.
We could easily drop behind Durham or Winston.
Ricky Bobby said it best. If you ain't first, you're last.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Well, and we need to figure out what we can be first in, even in the state. You go down to Kinston, little tiny city, and they've got, Chef and the Farmer with a lot of people going there to go to that restaurant. There was a guy with Mother Earth that bought up 60 homes that were condemned and made them artist residents.
Wow.
And so, you can create things like that. It just requires some outside of the box thinking and not just doing the same thing that everybody else has done.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah.
That's really important. Really important. Definitely. Again, you couldn't have said, I couldn't have said it any better. Really is just kind of not being third, not being stuck in these little circles that dictate,
what you can't do.
Yeah. Starting something new.
Break out of that echo chamber.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, take it away, Nick.
So I guess we've really rounded out the episode. We've covered everything from where you started, where you're going, things you like to do, things you don't like to see. We talked about politics. We talked about governmental policy. So we did it. At this point, if you've got anything you'd like to say to the viewership, drop a handle, and take the wheel. It's all you.
Yeah, I would just say if people are looking to start up, or they have an idea, they want to start up a business, or they want to expand their business, that's really something I enjoy doing. I love helping people grow their business. Like taking even just street artists and seeing them grow, seeing a restaurant expand or get bigger. So if someone's looking to expand up, do something where they need real estate, or they need to start up somewhere like in a commissary kitchen or a food hall or a micro shop or co-working, reach out. And I put my contact info out there always for people. I don't mind getting phone calls or text or emails as well. And they're welcome to reach out.
Right on.
All right. Well, if we could reschedule something later in the future, I'd like to revisit you and kind of showcase for everybody physically, visually, what you've been working on.
Sure.
But thank you, Marty. This has been fun. I really, really enjoyed this.
Yeah, same here. Good chatting with y'all.
Yeah, no, totally. And thank you for really just blocking out this time in your schedule and talking to us, and not only talking to us, but talking to the beautiful folks listening and viewing this episode and this podcast.
Dima, drop the outro.
Yeah, this has been another just crazy, amazing episode of the 4099 with your hosts, Dima and
I'm Nick.
And we are out.